As I mentioned last week, currently here at WAGOP, we're working on our latest policy project. These are our kind of big topic, big issue, white paper uh, discussions of law and policy and politics that we do on about a monthly basis here at the party. The latest one, of course, is talking about freedom of speech and freedom of conscience. As I've mentioned before, our state constitution here in Washington is even stronger in how it talks about freedom of speech and freedom of conscience, what the state constitution calls absolute freedom of conscience, and protecting these things as essential constitutional rights, as foundational values. There's an element to this story that's worth discussing. Uh, in the recent months, as I've mentioned before, there have been a number of bills in Olympia and bureaucratic rules out of state agencies that have undermined your right to free speech, your right to absolute freedom of conscience, with these snitch lines and commissions to investigate misinformation and disinformation, and state agencies contracting with foreign companies to snoop on people's internet, social media speech. In the midst of all this, the mainstream media here in Washington State and the Pacific Northwest has been largely silent. It has not tracked as closely as you would expect a free press to track these threats to free speech and freedom of conscience. It's an interesting thing. In some circles, they call the mainstream media the fourth estate, that it is essentially a part of the establishment. And when it comes to issues like this, like free speech, like freedom of thought, which is what the absolute freedom of conscience is about, you would expect a free press, a mainstream media, to be watchdogs for government intrusion, trampling on everyone's right to speak freely, to think what they will think. Unfortunately, our mainstream media here in this part of the United States seems to be kind of thrown in with some of these bureaucratic agencies and their attacks on freedom of speech and freedom of conscience, turning a blind eye to the attacks in any event and treating them as small matters. It's not a small matter. The actions by the current governor and state attorney general and secretary of state here in Washington are an attack on constitutional rights to free speech and freedom of conscience. They are weaponizing the use of terms like misinformation and disinformation. They are politicizing the processes of election security and freedom of information. This is a real issue here in Olympia and all around the state about our law and policy. The popular writer and psychiatrist, a psychologist, Jordan Peterson, has talked extensively about the importance of freedom of speech and freedom of conscience, free thought, in not just politics and not just law, but in the nature of culture and on the nature of what is civil society. And Peterson's very popular. I almost hate to reference him, he's so popular, but his points on this are very good. Freedom of speech is about more than just constitutional law. It's about what kind of a society do we want to be? Do we want to be a society that values independence and every person's right to speak their mind and believe what they will believe, whether it's religion or philosophy or just crazy conspiracy theories? In our free society, people can think and believe what they want. And the government can't trample on that. The government can't interfere with that. The government can't criminalize what you say or what you believe. From this freedom comes the best ideas, comes the best technology innovation, comes the best development, both commercial and business and personal. A free society protects individuals. Our state constitution says the state government exists to protect individual rights. And top of the list there are the rights to speak freely and think freely. Our mainstream media, our fourth estate here in Washington, needs to do a better job of protecting freedom of speech and freedom of thought. I challenge you in the media. Pay attention to what's going on with some of these bad bills and bad bureaucratic actions happening in our state. That's it for this week. Until I speak with you again, stay strong, be well, and I'll talk to you soon.